ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। The second section of the second Mundaka begins with the indications, the pointers to that supreme reality, that consciousness which is my own self. It was already indicated earlier. Why is the need to do that again? This time, these pointers are meant to help us actually walk the path and experience and get established in that experience of the self. So with that in mind, here in the second mantra we saw, after giving some pointers, that it was self-luminous, etc. It is all the instruments and that which is experienced by the instruments after all these things. Ultimately, it was said, this is supposed to be not just known. The first mantra says known, but the second mantra says this is supposed to be hit as a target is hit. Vedhavyam means to be penetrated through. And therefore, the instruction is, if it is supposed to be penetrated, then vidhi, do that. Vidhi shabda, the word also means know it. But vidhi here, after vedhavyam it is coming, means you also penetrate through that target. So now this language has been spoken. But what kind of penetration? How can I hit the target? Which target are we talking about? And for that, what instrument, what weapon do I have with which I shoot the arrow and then it reaches the target. What is it? So the explanation or the detail of that is given in the following two mantras, the mantra number 3 and 4. So we'll read the two mantras and then we will little bit think about it. धनुर्गृहीत्वोपनिषदं महास्त्रम् शरं ह्युपासा निशितं सन्धयीत आयम्य तद्भावगतेन चेतसा लक्ष्यं तदेवाक्षरं सौम्य विद्धि प्रणवो धनुष्शरो ह्यात्मा प्रणवो धनुष्शरो ह्यात्मा ब्रह्म तल्लक्ष्यमुच्यते अप्रमत्तेन वेद्धव्यम् शरवत्तन्मयो भवेत्. So, how to hit the target? What is the target? What is the weapon we have to hit? So, he is saying we have to hit a target with an arrow using a bow. Okay, what is it? Dhanur grihitva aupanishadam mahastram. So this bow that I have, it is mahastram. It is a very, very powerful weapon. Maha means one is it is a huge, big weapon. And mahastram also means that it is very popular. It is known very well. So with this well-known, huge, powerful bow, which is this bow? Aupanishadam, that which is in the Upanishad. Upanishad means anything related to the Upanishad. So that which is in the Upanishad, that kind of bow, a very powerful bow, you take that. Okay. Then there has to be an arrow also. Sharam is arrow. And what kind of arrow is that? Nishitam. Nishitam is sharpened. This tip is very, very sharp, pointed. Because if you have to hit that target and penetrate to the target, then you have to have very pointed, sharp tip. So the head of the arrow is nishitam, sharpened. By what? Upasa. Upasa means constant upasana, or here what it means is contemplation, practice of meditation. So for a long time, this kind of upasana is done. Oh, so with that, this arrow which is sharpened with such constant practice, consistent practice of contemplation, that arrow you take sandhayita, fix that arrow in the bow. So step by step, take that bow in your left hand, take that arrow. If you're lefty, you can do the other way around and fix the arrow in the bow. After fixing, what should you do? Then if you release it, it will fall here only. You have to pull it. So what is that? Ayamya. So having fixed the arrow, then pull it. Pull it up to the ear. Ayamya. Oh, how should I pull it? I have strong arms. I will pull it. But this bow and arrow, you can't pull it with your arms. It is not possible. Oh, then with what should I pull? Chetasa. With my mind intellect equipment. Antahkarana, the inner instrument. With that, oh, and what kind of instrument is that? Tadbhavagatena chetasa. That antahkarana, that kind of inner instrument, that kind of mind, which is completely colored in the color of consciousness. so to speak. We'll come to the details. Bhavagatena, Tadbhavagatena, completely immersed in that consciousness. That kind of chetasa, fixed completely in that consciousness. Tadbhavagatena chetasa, lakshyam vidhi. Lakshyam, that target is there in front of you. Vidhi, you hit that, penetrate through that target. Shoot the arrow and let it go and hit and penetrate through the target. Oh, what is that target? Tadeva aksharam lakshyam. That target is nothing but that imperishable alone. Which imperishable are you talking about? From the beginning we are talking about. What is that paravidya athapara yaya tad aksharam adigamyate? That aksharam, which was talked about in every section so far, that is the akshara. And from that tasmat, aksharat, purushat, everything this came, that akshara. That is the target and you shoot. Okay, so what should we do? Pick up this powerful, huge bow, which is related to the Upanishad, and take the arrow, which is sharpened by consistent contemplation. Fix it in that bow. Pull it with a mind which is trained, which is completely fixed upon that inner self or the supreme consciousness, and that supreme consciousness being the target, just go hit it and let it penetrate through it. Can you provide some more information on this? Yes, some more information. What is that Upanishadic bow that you're talking about? So the next mantra clarifies that. What is that Upanishadic bow? Pranavo Dhanuhu. The bow is nothing but Pranavaha. Pranavaha means Om. This Om is the bow. Pranavo Dhanuhu. And what is the arrow? Sharohi Atma. Now here Atma does not mean the Supreme Self. Here Atma means the Jivatma. That consciousness which is limited by the individual equipment. Mind, intellect, senses, body, all these things. That which is identified with this set of equipment, that is called here as Atma, the Jivatma, the individual self. So, the bow is Om Pranavaha and the arrow is the individual self. Sharahi Atma. And what is that? In the target that one has to hit, that already said Tadeva Aksharam, and here it is said Brahma Tat Laksham Uchyate. Tat Brahma Laksham Uchyate. That infinite Brahman is the target which has to be hit. Okay. Now, how should one hit? That was said, fix it, pull it, leave it, over. That is, if it was so easy, physically done, then it can be done easily. But here, it has to be done with the mind. So how is it to be done? Apramattena vedhavyam. It has to be hit. You have to aim and release. And it should be so powerfully released that it should go and just not just touch it, but it has to go into it. Apramattena, without mind being scattered here or there, single pointed effort, it has to be vedhavyam, penetrated. And once that is done, what will happen? Sharavat, like the arrow, becomes one with the target. When the arrow hits the target, what happens? And it completely goes inside. Then what happened? The arrow is not seen anymore. It has gone into the target. Now only target remains. And you've gone over. Now arrow, we must know, how about arrow is seen outside? Okay, let's take the example of bullet. Bullet goes in, then bullet is not seen. Only the target remains. So like that, Sharavat Tanmayo Bhavet. Like the arrow hits the target, penetrates through it and merges into it. Like that, here also this arrow also of the individual self should merge with the Supreme Self, this Brahman. Now, as an example, and with the help of this, we understand, oh, okay, we have to do this. But then again, the question, but how? Although this is very beautifully given, but some poetic language and all, then we feel that how can we practically do it? So, first, step by step, let us first talk of the bow. The bow is here said that Om which is indicated in the Upanishad. Upanishadam Mahastram. That Upanishadic Om, that which is indicated in the Upanishad. What is Om indicated as in the Upanishad? Om, Upanishad says Om iti Brahma. Om is nothing but that Brahman only. But it is that Brahman, but as Puja Gurudev would call it, it is the sound symbol of Brahman. We have different types of, we have usually visual symbols. But here it is a sound symbol. Om. And this is heard, it is actually an indicator to Brahman. And how? So there are various ways of looking at it, but very briefly, from different Upanishadic ideas, if we have to understand, Om has 3 syllables. A, U, M. And followed by these 3 syllables, there is a few moments of silence. So actually, Om is considered to have 4 parts. A, U, M and silence. So similarly, it is compared to the self, which also seems to have 4 parts. What are the 4 parts? The self which is experiencing the waking state. The waking state experiencer. In Vedanta, it is called as Vishwa. The dream state experiencer, that is called Taijasa in Vedanta. And the deep sleep state experiencer. But deep sleep, there is no experience. Who knows that there is no experience? Who is experiencing the state of no experience? That deep sleep state experiencer is called Prajna. Vishwa, Tejas, Prajna. It is easy to use these words rather than saying waking state experiencer, dream state experiencer, deep sleep state experiencer. It is longer. That is why we are using these terms. So Vishwa, Tejas, Prajna. And the fourth, what is the fourth part of the self? The fourth part of the self is which is beyond all experience. So there is nothing to experience and there is no experiencer also. Because experiencer cannot be any absolute identity. It has to be relative to the experience only. If there is nothing to experience, there is no object of experience, then there is no experiencer. Experiencer exists only with respect to experiences. So when no experience, no experiencer. So being an experiencer cannot be an absolute identity. So that what is called that beyond these 3 is the fourth, which in the scriptures is indicated by the word Atma. So this uh, four parts and the four parts of Om, these two are kind of integrated. So what happens in this Omkara, there is what is called as Upasana, means there is superimposition of the idea of the waking state experiencer, the dream state experiencer, the deep sleep state experiencer, and that which is beyond all experience. These four parts are superimposed on this Om. So, whenever Om is chanted or the meaning of Om is contemplated upon, uh, stands for the waking state and the waking state experiencer. O stands for the dream state and the dream state experiencer. Stands for deep sleep state and the deep sleep state experiencer. And after that, the silence stands for that which is beyond all experiences. So, this superimposition, which generally is done in Upasana, is called Omkara Upasana. Now, how does this superimposition help? How does this kind of Upasana help? Whenever we have superimposed a subtler idea on something which is a bit grosser, which can be, which we are familiar with, which is more available for experience. For example, the further grosser form of Upasana is Saguna Upasana, where we have, let us say, a Shivalinga. Where there is a Shivalinga, what we are doing, we are not pouring water and milk on some stone. That would be foolish. And why do we, if that was the case, then we should be pouring water everywhere, because there are so many stones everywhere. Why don't we do that? But we do it only on the Shivalinga. Why? Because on that Shivalinga, which is a symbol which is directly familiar and I can see it, a grosser manifestation, on that I have superimposed the idea of the Lord of the universe, Mahadeva. And then with that understanding, I do all the worship. If I understand this aspect of Upasana, similarly, here this Shabdopasana, this Omkara Upasana also is like that. As soon as I come in touch with the sound Om, for me, what it encompasses, it is not just a Om sounds. What it encompasses is my entire identity across all states. So it is all inclusive. What all I am, everything. And this kind of complete analysis is available only in Vedanta. Because in fields of science, they maximum research on the waking state. That much only. Little bit, possibly dream state. Little bit. Deep sleep state, nobody even thinks about. Now, what is there in that? Nothing. Here, Vedanta goes even beyond the three states also. So, here, this each sound symbol included in Om stands for each state and its experiencer. More importantly, the experiencer, my identity. So, as soon as I say, what is happening? The waker is connected. So I become the waker and say, Now, Upasana cannot be done in one day. It has to be a consistent practice. So this kind of Upasana, when I take help of this sound, I have to constantly have this thought. I have to do it consciously first. Then it naturally starts happening that as soon as sound is there. I know the waker is me. So I am the waker. Then, as soon as the sound ooh is heard, I am the dreamer. As soon as I am the deep sleeper. I identify with that part of my personality. So it is not that I become that. I identify with that. There is what is the difference between not becoming and just being identified? Is I don't sleep. I don't have to sleep when I say slept. No, I don't have to sleep. Remaining awake, I have to identify with that deep sleeper and the one who experiences the state of no experience. I, I am that kind of habit. Now, what is this? I don't understand at all. We are doing this day in and day out. Really? Yes. How? Whenever anybody calls out our name, what happens to us? Even if we are sleeping, as soon as somebody calls out our name and it is loud enough, what happens? Huh? Who called me? What happens? That name, it is just a name, it's a word, it's a sound. What happens to us as soon as we hear that sound? Immediately, that's me, that's me. Means, what is that? I have identified so much with that name. But actually, the name belongs to what? After this was born, 11 days later, this body was given that name. So the name belongs to the body. And as soon as somebody utters that name, even if it is not intending to call me, so Govinda, I am Govinda, tell me what is it, what is it? I was not calling you, I was calling the God, Lord, Bhagavan Govinda. Okay. I thought you were calling me. Why? Because I have associated that name and said, that's me. So there is complete identification with the body. As soon as I take that name, it is me. That I have been practicing complete identification with the body. And that name is uttered, immediately I respond to it. That kind of association, if I can have with the Vishwa, Tejas, Prajna, whenever I hear the sound ma, that is called Omkar Upasana. So just open your mouth, Vishwa. For now, what is this? I don't know. There's no relationship. Upasana means doing this. As soon as that sound comes, ooh, that is why we must have seen whenever we are putting small babies to sleep, what do we use? That sound. It is associated with sleep. So this now we say that, but we don't chant it separately, and please don't. Okay? Especially when we are chanting in group, everybody is doing Om and somebody Om. Please don't do that. Okay? When we are alone, when we are doing our own sadhana, so that time if we want to, if we wish to, there's no harm in doing that. But the idea is, as we keep practicing this, then what happens at some point when we chant Om, this all the three together, Om, when it is chanted, then this Vishwa Tejas Prajna, all three are identified with. This is, yes, this is the entity. that is invoked by Om. And after that, when the chanting ends and there is silence, that silence, now that Vishwatajas Prajna, that identity is gone because that sound is gone. Now what remains? And all these three are not there. And what remains? That is me. So now that silence part is what is this contemplation, that arrow and target and all. That is the silence part. So coming back to the mantra, Pranavo Dhanuhu means I do this Omkara Upasana. And there are various techniques used for this. Conceptually, this is the thing. But techniques can be used. There are some people who say that when they do this Om chanting, how we can achieve this? So they chant Om separately. Then they chant longer, then U and Ma shorter. Then after some time they chant and M shorter, U is longer. Then U is short, then they elongate. So these are all different ways of doing. So there are people count and keep a count of if we go for 4 counts of then we should do the 8 counts of U and then 4 counts of So these kind of techniques are there. So all these different types of techniques are employed only to bring this identity with the sound. So with the help of the sound, I invoke that identity, and when that sound ceases to be, that identity also is given up, and what remains? That is what we have to bring it to. So here, this pranava, this omkara, as the bow, is this omkara upasana. I keep practicing this association with omkara. Why is this necessary? Because without any support, to just say that, okay, you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not this waking state of experiences, not the waking state of experience, the waking state experiencer, and all these things, negate all that, and whatever that supreme self, that inner self, that is what you are. It is very difficult to do it just like that. But when we do this, taking the support of this Omkara, it helps me take my mind through that journey and merge. So here, Dhanur Grihitva Upanishadam Mahastram Pranavo Dhanu, taking that. And Sharohi Atma. Now what is this? This Vishwa Tejas Prajna. This waking state, deep sleep state experiencer, that is in other words called as Jiva, and that is the arrow. Now arrow has to be fixed in the bow. Means whenever there is Om, when we chant Om, when we listen to Om, when we contemplate on Om, the arrow should come. Otherwise it is no use. The arrow should come when it is chanted. Means the identity has to be associated with the sound. Fix the arrow. And what is this arrow also? Sharpened. Sharpened by Upasana. Omkara Upasana. I have done this Omkara Upasana for long enough that as soon as the sound is heard or even thought of, the arrow comes and sits on the bow. The identity as the experiencer of these 3 states, that jiva, that identity of that jiva is there ready. And then when that fixing of the arrow is done, sandhita, then ayamya, pull. Pull it. What is that pulling? Tadbhavagatena chetasa. The power that is needed for the pushing of the arrow towards the target is provided by a trained mind, trained by consistent sadhana and practice of meditation, where tad bhava gatena. Bhava means experience, trying to experience the presence, trying to experience it and not just understand it. Because intellect, unfortunately, in that wanting to understand, gives up that feeling of presence. I want to understand what is this, how to do this. Let me understand. That feeling is left out. So that bhava gatena means that experience, wanting to experience, going close enough. And it is possible by a subtle mind only, subtle intellect only. That's why in other Upanishads and all said, yes, it is beyond the mind, but mind has to be used. What to do? Can't do anything. So how is it supposed to be used? Like the action of pulling behind. That is what the mind's use is in this contemplation. So the action of pulling behind, that is what the mind does. Means the mind is not pulling behind, means not literally, but giving it the power to get shot in that direction and merge in that goal. Tadbhavagatena chetasa. Just fixed, there's nothing else. No other distraction, no other thought, nothing else. Just for this also, it is said that what is this? Getting into that, this constant practice of experiential practice of the great statements of the Upanishad, that I am not this body, I am that supreme Brahman. I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. And it is not a japa, it is not a repetition of thought. It is that grabbing that experience, trying to grab that, because you can't grab it with the mind, but trying to grab that experience. Trying to, I am Brahman, is not a thought. Going beyond the thought. Just having that mind fixed in that supreme consciousness. The mind cannot conceive of or fathom the supreme consciousness, but still it is trying. That trying is very important. That trying is what is like pulling the string of the bow. And this has to be done apramattena. Here what is said in the third mantra is tad bhavagatena. In the fourth mantra is apramattena. Here the positive word is used, there the negative word is used. Apramattena means not scattered here and there, not deflected here and there. Such kind of mind, which is completely fixed, tad bhavagatena. Samahitena chetasa antahkaranena. This inner equipment which is totally established in that Brahman. It may start with thought, but it is aspiring for experience. That kind of chetasa ayamya, having pulled it strongly, then vedhavyam has to be released. What is that release? As we said, we chant Om. Sound is gone. The arrow is released. What remains? That arrow has gone and merged into the target. Similarly, that individual self is merged in this supreme consciousness. I as an entity cease to exist. If we imagine, we use a water gun, and we target the lake and shoot, what will happen? The water which is inside, it is now the water thinks, I am so strong, like a bullet. I will be shot out of this gun. I have so much of power. It's talking about its individual existence. But when it is shot on the lake and it goes and hits the surface of the lake, then what happens to that drop of water? Sharavat tanmayo bhavet. There is no individual entity. Now it is all merged into the lake. Similarly, this one drop called the Jiva or the Vishwatejas Prajna merges into the huge lake of consciousness. Through this effort in the form of consistent contemplation, consistent practice of meditation. Omkaropanishad helps us. This kind of attempts of keeping the mind fixed and not get distracted or deflected anywhere and just reach there. It is not an activity of the thought, because we are trying to conceive of, okay, I will think like this kind of thoughts I have to entertain. No, because this consciousness is not the object of thought. I am exactly not able to understand it. Congratulate yourself, because if it is understood, then it is not it. Because it cannot be understood, it cannot be made into the object of our intellect. But that doesn't mean we can't conceive of it. Yes, as a concept we can understand it. But it is not a concept. It is not a sound, but the sound can help me reach there. I am not my name in my empirical identity also. Am I my name? No. But when somebody utters my name, it helps them to get me there. Similarly, Om. The sounds help invoke the Jiva, the experiencer of the three states, and the silence that follows invokes that supreme Brahman, that is my true identity, and all this empirical identities as the experiencer of the states merges into that consciousness, like the sounds Uma merge into the silence. So, what is my job? Keep doing this upasana, sharpening this arrow, that as soon as the sound comes, that identity rises. That's good. And then we just remain intent on just experiencing that. Nothing else, no other thought, no other distraction, no other desire, nothing. This also is not in the form of a desire. It is just as a form of a thoughtless assertion of my true identity, where there is no thought, but there is an attempt for experience. And in that state, where I am so intent and focused and single pointed, that's when I hit the target of that Supreme Consciousness. Sharavat Tanmayo Bhavet. And like the arrow merges into the target, similarly, this individual identity, this entity, this jiva merges into Brahman. Now, merging does not here mean there are two and now one has gone into the other. No, there were never two. What is happening is I understand that this identity was never real. That is what it means, merging. Because when we say tanmayo bhave, like the arrow penetrates into the target and disappears into it, like that the jiva also should disappear into the consciousness. No, because it is not two identities. Here, my identification with this limited jiva is dropped and I reclaim my real identity of the infinite consciousness. It is reclamation. It is not something new that I am getting into. It is not that the jiva is there and it goes and merges and becomes one with consciousness. No. This, as a false notion, has been following me with me for a long time. But this was never real. Real is my true identity, is that infinite consciousness. And through this process, whatever I need to do, I keep doing. And all this false identities drop and the real identity alone remains. Even giving an example of drop of water merging into the ocean is not 100% right, because there is an existence of drop other than the ocean. But here that also is not there. It is just the identity drops, merges. If there is a very great actor, he is he has done multiple roles. He has acted as a king, as a minister, as a beggar, as an advisor, as the police, as an army commander. All these roles he has done. But after all these roles, when he gives up his career, he says, I don't want to act anymore. What is happening is all these characters which he has played at various times, they as though merge into him. So any of those roles, people may identify, oh, he was this. But as far as he is concerned, now I am just a human being. I am not identified with any of these roles. So that way, this Sharavat Tanmayo Bhavet, just be one, merge into it. So we have read, we will try. And it is not just that now for 10 minutes we will do that over. Just consistently need to practice this. Sit in a comfortable position. Relax every part of the body. Keep the back, neck and head in one straight line. Eyes gently closed. Focus your attention on the thoughts of the mind. The thoughts are flowing in front of us like a river. We are seated on the bank of that river, and this river of thoughts is flowing in front of us. As we watch this river of thoughts, we may wish to label them, recognize them, but resist that temptation and just let the thoughts flow. Let us not hold back any thought. Let us not jump into that river. Just remain at the bank, watching the river gushing away. Focus attention on the eyes watching the river. Focus attention on the mind watching the eyes. Focus attention on the one who is watching the mind. If words like I, the self, the witness, Sakshi, Atma, Brahman, any of these words come, they are also thoughts. They also belong to the mind. The one who is the experiencer of that mind, one who knows what all is going on in the mind, that one who is experiencing all these different states, namely the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. That is what Om stands for. The experiencer of the waking, dream, and deep sleep state. As soon as we chant Om, you all listen to the sound and try and connect to this experiencer, the one who is watching the mind, the one who is behind all the experiences of the senses, mind, intellect, etc. Try and connect to this experiencer, the observer, the witness, when these words, the Om is spoken. I will chant. You all just listen and connect that sound to the experiencer of all states of experiences, waking, dream, and sleep. If the mind wanders, bring it back and focus the attention on the one who is bringing it back, and then the attention on the one who knows that it is being brought back, and the one who knows the knowledge of it being brought back. And associate that knower or experiencer with the sound. I, the experiencer of all the three states, where am I when there is no experience at all? And focus the attention on the sound, and when the sound ends, try and be established in that silence following the sound. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Is to not make any jerky, sudden movements. Gradually move the toes, the fingers, arms, the feet, and slowly the rest of the limbs.